Israel and the Palestinians traded rockets and missiles as violence flared after an Israeli raid on a West Bank refugee camp.
Ukraine threatens to boycott the Olympics if Russian athletes are allowed to compete at Paris 2024.
Skopje, the capital of North Macedonia, which sits in a valley, has been ranked as one of the cities in the world with the highest levels of air pollution.
Rockets fired from Gaza at night. Retaliation after Israeli commandos killed 9 Palestinians, including a 61-year-old woman in Jenin refugee camp. Israeli defence forces hit back. They carried out at least 2 airstrikes, hitting targets they described as a Hamas underground rocket workshop and a militant training site. 5 rockets were reportedly fired towards Israel from Gaza. All were either shot down or fell short. Separately, Israel launched a further overnight operation in Jenin in the West Bank. It was the scene of clashes on Thursday in which 9 Palestinians were killed. It's the deadliest flare-up in violence in the region in years and comes after the recent installation of a new hard-right Israeli administration.
Ukraine's sports minister has warned the country could boycott the 2024 Paris Olympics if Russian and Belarusian athletes are allowed to compete. In a post on Facebook, President of the Ukraine Olympic Committee, Vadim Gutse, said it will try with all its might to prevent Russian athletes competing under any circumstances. Russia's hopes of sending a team under their own flag became more likely. The International Committee outlined on Wednesday it favoured officially neutral teams from Russia and its ally Belarus. Within countries who reject Russia's war in Ukraine, the sporting community has not reacted well to the news.
I see it negatively, to say the least. Most Russian athletes support the ongoing aggression, the ongoing war. I can't imagine how a Ukrainian, whose family might be injured or suffering, must go and wrestle against a Russian.
Paris's mayor, Anne Hidalgo, said she would accept Russian athletes competing as neutral athletes. Russia historically dominates the Olympic medal table.
From down in the Skopje Valley, you can see the capital of North Macedonia. In winter, it's often on the list of the Europe's most polluted cities. This year, it featured on the world's top 10 list for the worst air quality. This is Gorjan Jovanovski, activist and creator of the My Air app, which, given the pollution problem, has become one of the most popular mobile phone applications in the city. His popularity enabled him to become a member of the city council, where he actively works to improve the situation.
Skopje is in a valley. We're a valley city. We're surrounded by mountains, which means that there's not a lot of airflow. And especially during winter, when we have temperature inversion, we cannot let all of this pollution that we generate from the industry, from the households, from the cars, to escape this valley. And it starts to fill up, and it's like a boiling pot. It gets worse and worse and worse until maybe we have some showers or some wind to clear it out.
Skopje, with 700,000 inhabitants, is an industrial city with many factories built under the former communist system when environmental standards were not a consideration. Today, industrial facilities in the city operate without the necessary controls to meet standards.
We are turning a blind eye to the industry. A lot of this industry is unregulated, unmonitored. Very few industries have 24-hour monitoring systems that are installed. Even those that have a lot of holes in the data. They're not being regularly checked. So we have industry that is completely uncontrolled.
The European Commission is closely monitoring the Skopje's pollution levels. In several reports, it has highlighted a failure to implement laws required to achieve the ambitions of the Green Agenda for the Western Balkans.
We have laws that are not being implemented. We have laws that are not sufficient, that need to be changed, that need to be made better. There's a systematic problem of these people not doing their jobs correctly, and of course not implementing the laws that are there, or not even trying to make the laws better.
Political parties from left and right origins have changed the power in the last decades, but none of them managed to deal with this problem. The citizens' only hope now is the EU membership negotiations that started last year and is now in the screening phase. In Skopje for Euronews, Gorjan Jovanovski.
Over 1 million people took to the streets on Thursday in protest at plans by the French government to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64 by 2030. The government says the changes are needed to stop the pension system from slipping into billions of euros of deficit in the coming years. Unions are now gearing up for another strike on January the 31st. And have warned they're prepared to further step up their actions if the government goes ahead with the reform.
As the polls open for the second round of the Czech presidential elections, there's been another very bizarre twist with fake news surrounding one of the candidates, Petr Pavel. Multiple Czech news outlets, as well as multiple social media users, said that they've received emails announcing the former general had died suddenly right before the election. The emails included a link to a website nearly identical to Petr Pavel's official one, and the people behind this bizarre fake death announcement even went as far as writing an obituary for the candidate. Petr Pavel reacted on Twitter, saying that the level of disinformation had hit a new low during this campaign. He tweeted, "Yes, I'm alive. I never thought I would have to write this on the web. Someone is sending out a fake version of my website with the news of my death on behalf of my spokesperson." But later that day, the former general jokingly posted this tweet, photoshopping himself onto the famous James Bond movie poster, No Time to Die. The second round of the presidential election is being held this Saturday as well as this Friday, pitting the ex-NATO official Pavel against the former Prime Minister Andrej Babis. And even Babis responded to the fake death announcement of his opponent on Twitter, saying, "Even though we are rivals, I absolutely agree with you. It's disgusting, and I'm sorry that anyone would stoop down to such a thing. The police should look into this thoroughly, just like they did with the anonymous person who threatened me." Andrej Babis claims that he's received death threats recently, and a letter with a bullet casing had been mailed to his wife this week. So who is behind these emails? Well, we don't really know for sure, and the police is still investigating the case. But according to Czech media and experts, many have found that the website is anonymous and that the emails on that domain were routed through a Russian Yandex web portal. Philip Rozenek, a Czech media analyst, concluded that, in short, someone put in a lot of effort to hide their tracks and to not be traceable. Earlier this week here in the Cube, we covered also the very strange messages that some voters claimed to have received from Petr Pavel's team, asking them to go to the nearest branch of the armed forces in order to receive equipment to be mobilized to Ukraine. To this day, it's still unclear who is behind these text messages, as well as behind the whole fake death announcement. But one thing that's for sure, it's an election marred by what observers call an alarming level of disinformation.
Their country may be ravaged by war, but for these children in Kyiv, there is, at least sometimes, the semblance of a normal life. On top of their lessons, they also go outside to pick berries for homemade jam, as a treat for soldiers fighting on the front lines.
We have a classmate whose father is on the front, so we're going to send her the jam we're making.
In another class, students make candles for soldiers in the trenches, a chance to contribute in a small way to the war effort. In frontline communities, teachers and students have had to adapt to even harsher conditions. When the school in eastern Donetsk was destroyed by Russian strikes, one educator transformed his living room into a classroom.
When the school got destroyed, I decided to provide lessons at home for students so that they interact with each other. It's better to provide lessons in person compared to online classes.
Краще займатися з дітьми і їх бачити особисто, а не, як кажуть, на екрані.
While the war continues, school life goes on. It's far from normal, But the learning doesn't stop.